Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Rihanna, and welcome back to Fresh Off the Broke.
Fresh Off the Broke is about personal experiences growing up Asian American in a predominantly white community, Asian media, and Asian pop culture in general. Race has always been a sensitive topic. Every day, there are debates over race. With our podcast, we intend to shed light on the experiences of first-generation Asian immigrants, not put them on a pedestal.
We understand that race isn't everything, but there should be an acknowledgement of people of color, the knowledge gap, and the racial divide that will ideally be broken. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the episode. Today's topic is the first-generation low-income experience, also known as the FGLI Experience.
Now, as you're listening to this, and as we're recording this, it's September. And we all know September to be the time of year for many where they start school again, or start school for the first time.
Yay, that's fun.
Yay!
If you were a student, pat yourself on the back right now.
Yeah.
Long year. No, I'm just kidding.
We're patting ourselves on the back.
We are. And crying a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
We can cry together.
Yeah. Did you see that's what Fresh Off the Broke is about?
It really is.
We talk together. I mean, honestly, yeah, it really is. That's like the whole basis of the podcast and why we created it and what it was before it became a podcast.
Yeah.
Fresh Off the Broke, you know, we talk together, we laugh together, we cry together, we have existential crises together.
Mm-hmm.
The important part is we do it together.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh off the existential crisis. And you know what? The funny thing is, Fresh Off the Broke, like the name, it's basically related to like the FGLI experience.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because we're talking about how like we're representing or we're part of like the population of first-gen immigrants or like children of immigrants that aren't of the population that's like well off and came from like the stereotypical like #rich fov experience. And so Fresh Off the Broke is like fresh off the boat, but broke because we're broke. That hurt to say. You know what? We won't always be broke. We're working on it.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day when the podcast disappears, you'll know.
That's how you know that we're rich.
Yeah.
If we were to continue the podcast up until then, what would we possibly change the name to?
We like just become actual fobs. Fresh off the boat.
fresh off the bills.
I don't
know if I like that one.
Fresh off the, I don't know.
Fresh off the coin. I don't like that. That sounds like a cryptocurrency.
This could be a later issue. I don't think we're anywhere near that.
That's not the spirit.
Just be realistic.
Fresh off the realism.
Oh God. Well, anyways.
Yeah. So as we were saying, school starting, and we figured that this was a good time to delve into the FGLI topics. And most of the time when people are talking about the FGLI experience, it's pertaining to students.
Yeah.
And the student experience. More so the university, late high school, but more university experience.
So this term, we're pretty sure it originated from the US. It's one of those like online, like just spoken terms that people use. So there's no like clear origins, not an actual term.
Yeah, we're pretty sure there's no like etymology behind that.
Yeah. But there are a lot of organizations and just like communities that use this term, which makes it seem more legit, especially since it's used in like university settings, but we'll get into that later. And as you said, this is mainly for university students / like college students. Basically, levels of education where money is needed, because you know, like when you're younger, if you go to a public school, you don't really need to pay for anything. unless it's like extracurriculars, maybe uniforms, but university, lots of money. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Student debt is a huge thing, especially in the United States.
Yes.
You y'all, I have questions about that. Why are y'all's universities so expensive?
Yeah. Like
Even if you're doing in-state, why is it so much?
I genuinely like just because Canada and the US are so like similar in so many different ways. I don't understand how the difference is that big in like the monetary amount of education.
Yeah, I know. 'Cause
What could truly be different?
yeah, we have to spend a lot too, but not the same amount of y'all. Y'all
Yeah.
be like, y'all easily go up into the 40, 50,000.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, anyways.
Sorry for reminding yourself of that pain if you're going through that.
Yeah. Again, we're here to cry together.
Yes, no matter the amount of your tuition.
Uh-huh. So, in terms of defining the FGLI like term, I'm going to use a very well stated definition from a nonprofit called the Close the Gap Foundation. And again, we're going to get into that later. But basically, a first generation low income or FGLI individual is someone who has grown up near or under the poverty line and comes from a family that has not had a college going tradition. Now, to be clear, first generation in this sense does not necessarily refer to first generation American or Canadian or insert country here, but it refers to the first generation of a family that's going to college or like pursuing a higher education.
Mm-hmm.
So if your parents did not have a college education, but you do, you are a first generation like college student type thing. But it is important to point out that there is a lot of overlap between first generation students and first generation Americans or Canadians just due to like immigration and stuff like that. Like that's just what it's like being a first generation like kid growing up.
Yeah.
Your parents typically wouldn't have had like a college education, especially in the West. That's just like not really heard of.
Mm-hmm. And the thing with like the whole like first generation student label is that because here in the West, there are a lot of families, particularly like Western or like white families, that have like for generations gone to the same university. Especially in the US, it's known as like being a legacy student.
Uh-huh.
And legacy students for some schools like Ivy League and stuff, they might be considered before other people just because like
Uh-huh.
their family has been going to I don't know like Yale for
Uh-huh.
generations, especially if they're like an upper class family. They've donated buildings. My
Yeah.
great grandpa went to Yale, and then his son went to Yale, and his son went to Yale, blah blah blah, and then I'm going to Yale, and we have a little library in the physics department named after us, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. And there are a lot more benefits than that. Just think about how much money one family over the generations has given to the university. So obviously, like the university would want to acknowledge that in some sort of way, but it cut like
Hmm.
that acknowledgement is so much, it puts you on a pedestal. It really does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We don't really have in Canada like this type of like legacy honoring system.
Which
No,
is
yeah, not that I know of. Like I know people where their families have gone to, for instance, the University of Toronto for a generation or two, or like a few generations, but it doesn't really say anywhere, I don't think, on like applications. They ask you if your family's gone to U of T.
yeah. I know some applications they'll ask like if you have a sibling who's like currently going to the school or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like again the generational thing, haven't really heard of it.
Yeah. If we're wrong about that, and you've seen that at like your particular Canadian university, do let us know.
Yeah.
Because we're our knowledge is only so limited,
Yeah.
and we can't look up every single
Yeah.
higher education institution
Yeah.
in Canada. And sometimes stuff like this happens, but it's swept under the rug. Like it's
For
not actually
sure.
made public information.
Yeah. So let us know.
I mean, look at Operation Varsity Blues. Like that wasn't like a generational thing. That was, Operation Varsity Blues was this whole like freaking thing where these celebrities and like rich parents and families were doing very sneaky things to get their kids into school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Stanford rowing team, they I wonder what it must be like for someone going to Stanford to tell someone that like, oh, I'm going to Stanford, I'm gonna be on the rowing team just because of what happened with
Yeah.
Olivia Jade.
Yikes.
Like it's probably just become an inside joke now.
Yeah. Yikes. So some of you might be wondering what the term low income actually means, because the two words low income doesn't really give you much, especially like depending on where you come from or the community that you're surrounded by. So as defined by the US Department of Education, the term low income applies to an individual whose household taxable income for the preceding year did not exceed 150% of the poverty line. Other definitions can include individuals with less disposable income than others, living paycheck to paycheck within a community, or simply those who struggle to pay bills or are affected by low job security. So that is what low income means, like by definition.
It's not a universal thing, but we're just kind of sticking to like the US definition just because this term kind of originated from that.
Yeah. And it's mostly
Not low income. Low income exists
everywhere.
universally,
Yeah.
but the FGLI term,
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
As we were saying earlier, talking about how our podcast, Fresh Off the Broke, relates to the first generation low income experience, and how a lot of the reason why we made it, or a lot of the stories that are behind FOB, are kind of built up by this experience. We have, like, this episode kind of just like encompasses a lot of like what FOB is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, fresh off the broke.
Yeah. To a certain extent, the FGLI experience is common, but it's not common in the sense that like when you get to university, everyone's a first generation student. Everyone kind of just like living that hashtag fresh off the broke. Like a lot of people aren't, and it can be pretty not I don't know if I want to say shocking. I mean, it kind of was shocking for me, but it can be just a little bit like, I don't want to say culture shock, but some variant of culture shock.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, even though I grew up in a pretty white neighborhood and I already knew that like those people were rich, and like growing up like elementary school, middle school, there were people around me that were like way better off than I was. I kind of thought that it would be somewhat different when we went to university, and there would be more people like myself. And I mean, there are compared to those past places,
Uh-huh.
but we're still pretty much the minority. And it kind of sucks because it would make me happy, not because there's more people like me, but it would make me happy to see education be more accessible.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I feel like going to one of those like big name universities, or at least like bigger universities, you will see more people who are like FGLI students, because I feel like bigger universities have more opportunities for students who need that. But I feel like small universities, especially like in Canada too, it's very much like rich white people who send their kids to university just for like the partying, you know, like that's
Yeah,
what their kids are doing.
we have some universities here in Canada that are known to be very white, and I'm sure that a lot of people, I mean, there's jokes about it all the time. I see them all the time. And the lack of, I guess, mutual or like finding like a shared experience with people in the FGLI community is probably even harder at some of like our even whiter universities.
Yeah. But again, that being said, bigger universities also mean more international students.
Hmm.
So it's just like this weird, like, you're going to have diversity at big universities. Maybe you're still the minority, but especially small universities, yeah, no.
Yeah, it really depends. We would love to hear your experiences if you have, for instance, like you're going to a very small white college or university somewhere.
Yeah, let us know because
Hmm.
we only have one experience and it's the same one. So
Yeah, Rihanna and I have for yeah, we go to the same place, so
yeah.
I agree with what you said earlier about how like bigger name schools can have more first generation students because they have more money and they can like
Yeah.
make all these different scholarships and there's all
Yeah.
these like sponsored scholarships for like first generation Japanese students, first generation this heritage student.
Mhm.
I've seen those around.
Yeah. I will say like I like going to big universities or like going to big universities as if I go to multiple. But I
You
mean like
do.
big
Rihanna, every day
university.
she goes to a different big university
Yeah,
just for
just
fun.
to look, yeah.
Yeah, and she
Um
studies at all of them.
yeah. But they clearly have way more opportunities and just even just in general, like this is a whole nother conversation, just like classes, like things you can study. Obviously, there's more option because there's more money. But I do
Mhm.
like the diversity at big
Yeah, for sure.
universities. Again, like small universities or at least like the known white universities in Canada, even those are like scary. I know a friend who I would say is living the FGLI experience. She went to one of the like quote unquote like white universities and it's scary because like these universities are known for partying and kind of tangent here, but that university was known to like in the Muslim community, they got a Muslim girl to like eat pork at one of the parties, like they forced
Oh
her
my
to.
God.
Yeah, and so when she told us she was going to the university, we were all like, "Are you sure? Like, please be careful. Like, this university is known for its crazy party experience and like the crazy like things that happen there." But luckily, like she found her community, which even in smaller schools like there will be small pockets of people, but that's
Mhm.
just what it's like it's just like a different world
Oh my goodness.
from like what we see. So just like that's what it I'm glad that we go to a bigger university is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that happened.
I
I don't think
know
I
when
heard of that.
because I didn't know about that. And then because all my friends, like most of my friends are Muslim, and they're all just saying, like, oh, don't go to that school. And I was like, what's so bad besides the partying? And they're like, well, it's known for like stuff like this. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Like, okay. I did not know that.
I can't believe. Oh my God.
Yeah. I think they forced her to drink too. Like, it was just a terrible, like, terrible, terrible
Oh
saying. Like,
my God.
we'll talk about this off podcast, but you're not going to be surprised when I tell you the name of the university.
I can probably guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, man, oh my goodness.
I know.
I was not expecting that. Yeah, one of the nice things about going to a bigger university is definitely the diversity. Because the thing
Yeah,
is, going where I went growing up, there was not that ever. And also, even if there were kids of color, a lot of them were trying to appeal to the white students just
Yeah.
because like we want to appeal to the majority and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty lonely experience. But then now, like even if they're not people I speak to, and I don't know, see them in passing every once in a while, it's just kind of nice to see different people or
Yeah.
people that look like me. You
Again, it's
know, I
comfort.
also really like this is just a personal thing. I love walking around and then suddenly hearing someone speak my language.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to hear.
Mhm. It's so cute. Just like hearing like a small group of people or two people. Uh, Yesterday I was helping my friend. She wanted to go buy something from the bookstore and there were two people speaking Cantonese and I was like, "Oh, I love that."
Yeah. The communities at big universities, there's a place for everyone, and it's easily accessible compared to smaller universities.
Yeah, they still have their problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me, there's tons of problems, but
Yeah.
of different natures.
Going back to what I was saying earlier about the whole like being shocked and stunned thing, you can be pretty surprised by how many people in your university or maybe in your class that are like relatively well off. Because
Mhm.
I didn't even know this, but there was a small group of people I was speaking to in this one class, and basically all of them went to like fancy private schools. And I didn't really know these schools by name, and so I looked them up later, and oh my goodness, the tuition,
God.
the tuition,
Yeah.
it's more than some universities
Yeah.
for high school. You paid that for high school, and it's even it's even worse when they have bad grades.
I know, right? Literally, like, I don't understand the concept of private school for elementary and like middle school and high school. Like, what is the point? Like, there's no real difference in education when you're in elementary up until maybe high school, but especially elementary to middle school. What's the difference? There is none.
Just a bunch of random fancy classes that you can
Yeah.
take.
Like, the only difference is that you keep the poor people out of the school. Like, that's pretty much private school.
There's a pretty big like contrast you can tell. This isn't always true because sometimes it's more of a motivational thing, but what I see, like when I see students that don't really care about going to class or don't really care about doing anything academic related and they just want to like have fun at university, which there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a fun university experience. We all
Yeah.
want to have fun. But seeing like those particular people that don't care that they're spending, I don't know, like let's just say 20, $30,000 a year, and then they're basically paying to fail their classes.
I know, right?
Because that's something I couldn't even dream of doing because even getting here was an impossible journey.
Yeah. I don't understand how kids can know that they're paying so much money to go to university just for them to not go to class, fail every single quiz. And I get it, like at the end of the day, as long as you pass, you're gonna get that degree. But like again, like just to think of the fact that like they don't even really need that degree in order to like get a job and like be
Yeah,
well
like
off.
they can just be a partner at their dad's law firm or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Like they already have a secure job once they leave. It's basically their parents' way of getting them out of the house for like four or
Yeah,
five
isn't that
years.
crazy?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about that and I have to remember that it's not just something I see on TV and like everyone else out there is like that.
Oh man.
I don't know, it's like a distorted reality kind of thing.
Yeah. Like so many people that I talk to are just like, "Oh, like how could you go to university and you're still living from home? Like you're not having the university experience, you're not partying, you're not going out." It's like what is the university experience? I'm supposed to be getting a degree and then getting a job after. Like, what do you mean partying? Like, that's just a bonus. And plus, I don't like partying. So, like, why would I go to university just to party? I don't understand.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having fun in university. Like we all like I was saying, we all want to have fun, but like
Exactly. But like when you're
not
saying
everyone
like
has the privilege of putting that as the first thing they want to
yeah, like when people
do.
are like berating you for not doing stuff like that and being like you're missing out on your university experience. It's like no, I'm like going to class and doing my work. Like that's my university experience. Don't don't say that I'm missing out on something when this is what I want to be doing in the first place. Like obviously you can party, but like you should also be doing your work. Like you're paid to do this work. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay, now that that rant is over, we were kind of mentioning it before, but there are lots of resources and organizations that focus on the FGLI experience in case you were like interested, you think this sounds like something you could benefit from. So again, as we were saying, FGLI is a term that's mainly used in the US. So a lot of like American universities and colleges have FGLI communities. So for example, Yale has the FGLI Community Initiative, which is basically just like has community in the name, but it's just like a community of
Oh
students.
wow, really?
Yeah, I know. Just so like everyone can know that they're all in like the same shoes, they're all in the same boat. Just that level of like shared experience and understanding with one another is a really great way to find friends and just find like a safe space within your university, especially if the university is like one of those super like all the kids just go there for partying or all the kids are super rich international students, stuff like that. um and the other organization that I would highly recommend you just like even just read about is the Close the Gap Foundation. That's where I found the definition I read out earlier. They have lots of fellowships, grants, scholarships, like just stuff like that. Such great work. They have like they explain a lot about the FGLI experience and what they do to support students going through the FGLI experience. So if you feel like you are interested in that, maybe could benefit from that, I would highly recommend clicking the link in our description. Close the Gap Foundation. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and even on a more general note, a decent amount of universities, they have scholarships specifically for first generation students or
Mm-hmm.
first generation students from a specific country or of a specific heritage. And there are, I mean, if you go online and search out your city or your province or your state, whatever, however your land is organized, uh, you can find scholarships or grants for students that are first generation from, like I was saying, like your country or whatever heritage.
Mm.
So that's something that's worth checking out and
Yeah.
researching before you apply. Or as you're in school right now, you don't have to be a first year student.
Yeah.
They have some that are just for university students.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, on YouTube or just online in general, you can also find videos and people talking about resources that you can find.
Mm-hmm. And I know that sometimes universities are very like they do this on purpose where their like scholarship pages are very like confusing, lots of big words and just messy in general. I know especially for our university, sometimes you can search based on like first like actual first generation student. Like that's a box you can check off
Hmm.
in order to like search for scholarships. So, yeah, search it up.
if you are still in high school and you're in the process of applying for post-secondary, you can consider going to your guidance counselor or to the office, whatever it is that you have, excuse me, and ask them about like resources and scholarship that they might know of.
Mm-hmm. And also, if you are in grade 11 or 12, Close the Gap Foundation does have a fellowship like for that age group. So check that out.
With all that said, if you're out starting your new school year, if you're in the process of applying to a new school, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
We're cheering for you.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Yay. You got this. These are trying times.
They
No
are.
matter what you're doing.
We're
And
here.
we're trying together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, if you are a person who is maybe pushing higher education aside because of the FGLI experience, maybe like our resources can be of use to you. So please check them out.
Also, if you're already a university student or you've already completed that part of your life, feel free to leave some advice in the comments.
Yeah.
Help out our fellow FGLI people.
Help out us.
Yeah.
Please.
Just spread the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We're a community here.
Yeah. Maybe there's some big resources that we completely missed. Let us know.
Yeah.
Maybe even some non-American ones. That would be cool.
Yeah. That would be very nice because, well, one, we're Canadian, and also like our audience isn't just American. It's more so like we've been saying this term originates pretty much in the US, so that's why we've kind of been focusing on that side of things. But the FGLI experience, being a first generation student, you can be a first generation student from anywhere going to anywhere.
It
and
is
you can be
universal.
low income from anywhere. As always, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for coming and sitting down with us for another discussion. Thank you for listening to us rant and crying with us. It's tough out here.
It is.
It's a trying time. We're trying together. I've been saying.
Mission statement.
Broke together, breaking down together. Picking ourselves back up.
Period.
Rinse and repeat.
Oh God.
Yeah, as we've been saying, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you have some advice, you want to share your experience, talk about maybe how you felt when you first went to university. Did you feel like a little isolated? Are you familiar with that horrid story Rihanna told earlier about that school? Because I wasn't.
I also wasn't. Maybe there's other stories like that.
There honestly probably are. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. Anyways, if you guys like this episode and want to stay connected with us, check out our website in the description. It contains links to our streaming platforms such as Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and more. Follow us for more behind-the-scenes content, announcements, and other random things we decide to put on there.
See you next time. Bye.